Hey everybody!
Hello, Internet.
It's Super Breakfast Friends Club time again. Once again. It's Saturday morning. I hope you have your cereal.
Because if you don't, you're gonna have to leave and come back when you have a bowl.
Yeah. We'll wait.
It's rules, I'm sorry. It's literally in the title.
I'm Mike. We don't introduce ourselves like maybe every 10 episodes we introduce ourselves. I'm doing it this time.
I've noticed it's been getting less and less, yeah.
And this is not Mike.
That is correct. That's what's written on my birth certificate.
And here's the opening to a TV show that we're going to watch this week.
Hot diggity dog!
So that's it's Pokemon. I guess I should have said that earlier.
I mean, they'll figure it out when we start talking about Pokemon.
This month is the 20th anniversary of the release of Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire. So we are looking at the Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire anime.
Hot diggity dog!
What did you think of the opening?
It was goofy. I didn't care for it.
Oh, you thought it was goofy? I like this one a lot, actually.
It was another one of those songs where it's just like explaining everything essentially, but this time instead of explaining a convoluted plot, it's explaining all of the things that they introduced in Ruby and Sapphire, the video game.
That's true, yes. It does mention double battles and...
The bike.
Yeah, the Mach bike I noticed. Not the acro bike, though, just the Mach bike.
Because nobody used the acro bike.
That's true.
Couldn't get to Rayquaza with the acro bike.
Couldn't you? I thought you could. I thought you could get there with either.
I think you needed the Mach bike to make the jumps.
Oh, you might be right. I can't remember. It's been too long.
In the original, anyway. I don't remember how it was in the remake.
I know I got the acro bike to get like a couple of items, and then I took it back, and I got the Mach bike again.
Yeah, and then you never go back to the acro bike because it's like, I might as well just use my running shoes at this point.
Yeah.
I want to go at the speed of sound.
Yeah. But I like this song. This song is probably the one that gets stuck in my head the most. It is kind of goofy, but it's got a catchy tune to it.
It was not my favorite. It's certainly not the original song.
The original Japanese song, or?
Either.
Okay. I also like very much that all of the animation during the opening is custom made for the opening.
Yeah, that was a nice touch.
No clips. Although it's full of spoilers. It shows us in no uncertain terms what Pokemon all the main characters are going to get. Also shows us that Brock is going to be back eventually.
Well, he comes back in like the second episode. That's not too much of a spoiler.
No, I think he's gone for like 5 episodes.
But the the thing at the end of the episode that shows you the sneak peek for next week.
Was Brock
Wasn't
in
he in
that?
that?
I
Yeah, I
don't.
thought so.
I don't think he's in that episode. Maybe they've put him in the preview by mistake or something. I don't remember
It's
seeing
the
him.
guy that looks exactly like him, but with a ponytail.
It might be a man that looks exactly like him. Yeah. I don't know. But I did take a little look into that episode, and it didn't mention Brock from what I saw. I think Brock shows up. I think he comes back in the episode where Ash catches Taylor, but that's from my distant memory of watching this show back when it first aired, so I could be wrong on that one.
Probably.
Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire versions were released for the Game Boy Advance in 2002 in Japan and 2003 in the rest of the world. They were made by Game Freak and published by Nintendo. We talked about all this when we covered the first Pokemon episode, so I'm not going to go too deep into it. But this was the third generation of Pokemon, following Red and Blue and then Gold and Silver. And it was designed to be easy for new players, but also challenging for returning ones. I think that's pretty much what it was. It's been a while since I played the original Ruby and Sapphire, but that's roughly what I remember of it.
How is it challenging for returning players?
Well, it had like the battle tower and stuff, didn't it?
Not until Emerald.
I thought Ruby and Sapphire had the tower, but then only the tower, and then Emerald added the rest of the battle frontier. Am I wrong about that?
I can't remember. I don't remember a tower.
I think
I know that there was only a tower in Diamond and Pearl, and then they added the Battle Frontier in Platinum.
You know what? You might be right. I might be thinking of Diamond and Pearl because I cannot imagine where a tower would have been in Hoenn. Now that you mention it. Okay, yeah, I think you're right. I think I am thinking of Diamond and Pearl. Well, I don't know. It had Pokemon in it. They're a challenge.
They are a challenge.
I guess I was giving it credit that it wasn't due.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was intended originally as kind of a soft reboot. Did you know this? I learned this recently. Originally, it wasn't going to have any old Pokemon available.
I did not know that.
Yeah, they later... Like, that's what they were going to do, but they kind of chickened out.
They waited until Black and White for that.
Yeah, Black and White later did it. And I actually really like that about Black and White, and I wish more Pokemon games would do it.
Now they basically have no choice if they want to keep the series alive. They should be doing that.
Yeah.
Because people are just going to be mad when you take out 700 Pokemon.
Yeah. But, you know, I don't think they're ever going to have the guts again to make a Pokemon game where you can't get Pikachu until the post game.
That's true. Because so many people whined about Black and White because they're scared of change.
Yeah. I had friends who refused to buy Black and White because they couldn't get Pikachu in it.
I want to play the same game I've been playing for 20 years.
Yeah. But anyway, I think that original plan for no old ones to be available is probably the reason that they had Ash leave for Hoenn with only Pikachu with him.
Oh, okay. I was wondering about that. He shows up with a dead-ass Pikachu.
Yeah, because they didn't do that for Johto. When he went to Johto, he took all his Kanto Pokemon with him. He showed up with Bulbasaur and Squirtle and Charizard, taking on the first gyms in Johto with a Charizard already. Showing up to Faulkner, whose best Pokemon is a Pidgeotto.
I've been training for years. You'll never defeat my Pidgeotto.
I'm not going to talk too much about the development because, you know, for the most part, everything that's really relevant we covered when we talked about Red and Blue. But if you're interested in Pokemon Gen 3's development, there's a really good Did You Know Gaming episode that came out last summer, which has a lot of information in it which I had never heard before. I recommend it. It's very interesting. But let's just talk about the show.
Okay, let's talk about Pokemon.
Okay, Pokemon. This show So this is confusing. In Japan, this show is known as Pocket Monsters Advanced Generation. In English, it's known as Pokemon Advanced, although it's retroactively part of a series that's titled Pokemon the Series Ruby and Sapphire.
Okay.
It was never called that back in the day, but that's what they're calling it now. So if you want to find this series in English now, you want to look for Pokemon the Series Ruby and Sapphire. But back then it was just known as Pokemon Advanced. And in Japan, this is the first episode of the second series of Pokemon. Everything before this was part of the original series, which was just called Pocket Monsters, and that covers Kanto, the Orange Islands, and Johto. All one series in Japan.
I'm confused already.
Yeah, well, in English, this is the beginning of the 6th series. Because the dub split the original series up into 5 separate series, which were each given an individual title. So it's what was just called Pocket Monsters in Japan, in English is called Pokemon Adventures in the Orange Islands, Pokemon Johto Journeys, Pokemon Johto League Champions, and then Pokemon Master Quest.
Okay.
5 separate series that in Japan were all just one series. So it's confused. So when you're talking to Japanese Pokemon fans, they'll refer to this as the second series. But when you're talking to dub fans, they'll refer to this as the 6th series.
I do spend a lot of time talking to Japanese Pokemon fans.
I don't spend a lot of time talking to Pokemon fans in general.
No, me neither. I don't spend a lot of time talking to people.
I guess not, no. It's funny how much I've drifted away from every fan base I was once a part of.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of like, I really enjoy this series, but I would rather enjoy it on my own.
Yeah. That's about where I'm at, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have the energy that these young people do to write fanfics.
Yeah. And the trend of splitting the Japanese series up will continue, and has continued to this day, in fact. This series, Pocket Monsters Advanced Generation, will be split for the dub into Pokemon Advanced Challenge, Pokemon Advanced Battle, and Pokemon Battle Frontier.
This is entirely too much.
Yes. Those are all one for anybody who's a fan of the dub, you'll know those 4 separate series. In Japan, they're all one series called Pokemon Advanced Generation. It's because Japan doesn't do seasons like America does.
Mm-hmm.
So in Japan, Pokemon is just constantly running and has been constantly running for like 25 years. And there's a new episode every week. Continuously, non-stop, forever. Whereas America does them in seasons, so they'll do a batch and then they'll wait, and then they'll do another batch as the next season.
After society has crumbled, the one thing that will remain constant is that Pokemon will air every week.
Well, who knows? We talked about this a little bit in our private time, but I don't know what's happening with Pokemon, because they've got I think they've got 3 more episodes. As of this recording, they've got 3 more episodes to air, and then they haven't announced a next series. That's going to be the end of the Gen 8 series, and they haven't announced a Gen 9 series, so I don't know what's going to happen.
They're going to announce a Gen 9 series.
I mean, that's what you'd expect, but you'd think they would have announced it by now. You'd think there'd be TV listings by now. It's only a couple weeks away. And the game's out this week.
Yeah, they're not going to let this big fat money cow die.
You'd think, but previously, they've always had a new episode of the show out, like the week the game comes out. Speaking of which, this episode first aired on the 21st of November 2002 on TV Tokyo. Right when Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire came out, of course, as you'd expect. But for anybody who hasn't cottoned on to the fact that we're watching the Japanese version yet. We always watch the Japanese version when we do anime, but I will talk about the dub at the end. So don't worry.
Your favorite part is coming.
This episode in Japanese is called A New Land, A New Adventure, with 3 exclamation marks spread around the title.
Just so you know.
And it's written by Junki Takagami, who has written many Pokemon episodes, starting with Showdown in Pewter City, which is the episode that introduced Brock.
I remember him.
Yeah.
I remember Brock.
We'll watch that episode eventually, someday. And he continued writing for the show until the X and Y series. He's also written for a bunch of Super Sentai and Ultraman shows. And he wrote the Dragon Quest Adventure of Dai episode that we watched.
Oh, so we are familiar with his work.
Yes, we've met this man through his writing.
We have had him autograph our t-shirts.
We should.
You're the guy that wrote the Dragon Quest 1 episode that I watched. Can I get your autograph?
You're the guy who wrote that the butterfly gets sliced in half.
I forgot about the butterfly. They just bandage it back together.
Yeah, he's fine. So this episode just opens with May biking through the woods, introducing herself to us.
It's having a great time.
And there's a nice, cute version of the Fortree City theme playing.
Yeah, it made me want to crawl into my hidden base and do nothing, because there's not much you can do in there.
Yeah. You can set up music pads so it plays a song when you walk along them.
It's not going to sound good, but...
But you could do it. And then you can mix records with a friend and have them come and look at your bass.
It's true.
Did you ever mix records?
In the original Ruby and Sapphire, I didn't have friends, so no.
No, I don't think I did either. What was your... Do you remember what your cool phrase was that you made?
Mr. Mime is the real sniper.
Oh, was it? I don't remember. No, wait, hang on. That would have been the... Wouldn't that have been the Diamond and Pearl one? I think in Ruby and Sapphire you only had 2 words.
That's right. No, I don't remember that then.
I remember mine. My cool thing that everyone was obsessed with in my game was Adult Magazine. I think I'm sure I had a Mr. Mime one as well though in Diamond and Pearl.
I think you did because we talked about it many, many years ago. Because I remember us being surprised at how similar ours were.
Yeah, it sounds about right. Yeah, I'm pretty sure mine was Mr. Mime is the real father. Anyway, I didn't recognize this as being the Fortree City theme. I had to go and look because I assumed it would be like Little Root Town or something. Mm-hmm. But then I was going through the soundtrack trying to find this specific song, and it was none of the early ones. And then eventually I got to Fortree City, and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I forgot it was Fortree. It's just the secret base theme.
It's nice. It works here. I'm just surprised that they put such a late game one in. So May's on her way to get her first Pokemon from Professor Birch, which I had to be very careful because I kept almost writing Professor Bitch in my notes.
Every single time.
It's very close. But she tells us that she's more interested in traveling than being a Pokemon trainer and that she doesn't like Pokemon very much.
Yeah, which that seems sociopathic to me.
Yeah. I guess there are people who don't really like animals, right? But I don't trust them.
Trust them.
I thought it was interesting because it feels like they've done that on purpose specifically to make her the exact opposite of Ash. Mm-hmm. Because when they introduced us to Ash, they made sure that we knew that he lived and breathed Pokemon 24/7.
Yeah, he fell asleep watching Pokemon. Everything he owned had a Pokemon on it.
Yeah, it's his entire life is Pokemon.
I can relate.
Yeah, we've all been there. Some of us still are.
Some of us can't afford to be.
In Japanese, Mei is called Haruka, which I believe just means like a far distance. I think there's even a play on that in the song at the beginning.
Just means far away.
Yeah. She is played by Kaori, which is always spelled in all caps and always has a period at the end.
Okay.
She is mostly known for playing Mei in this, and also for being a vocalist in the rock band Spunky Strider.
Okay, that's a cool name.
Yeah. She retired in 2012 after being diagnosed with spasmodic dysphonia, which
That's horrible.
yeah, I looked it up. It's a vocal cord disorder which makes it difficult to speak and which there is no cure for. So that
So there goes
sucks.
her livelihood.
Yeah, basically. But that's why Mei. So the current series of Pokemon, pretty much all of Ash's previous friends made at least some appearance in it. But when Mei appeared, she didn't have a speaking role, and that's why.
Oh, that's sad.
It is sad. In the English version, Mei is just played by Veronica Taylor, who is also the voice of Ash. So she's really just playing like 50% of the cast of this show.
She's every Pokemon. She's every professor.
No, I think the only Pokemon she played were Diglett and Goldeen.
Icons, though, to be sure.
Oh, definitely. So most versions of Mei, like when they have to canonize, because in the game, you choose to play either as Mei or Brendan, and whichever one you choose to play as is Norman's kid, and the other one will be Birch's kid, right? Usually when they canonize one of them, they usually canonize Mei as being Birch's daughter. But this does the opposite, and this makes her Norman's kid instead.
Yeah, that doesn't... I don't know who to trust anymore.
Yeah, because the manga and Pokemon Masters both made her Professor Birch's daughter. But this made her Norman's. I do feel like design-wise, Brendan makes more sense as Norman's kid than Mei does. Personally, to me, I think they look more similar. But, you know, doesn't really matter, I guess.
No, it doesn't. They are drawings.
Yeah. It's not like Ash looks anything like his mom.
It's always weird when they try to make them look too much like the parent. And usually that just means they wear identical clothes.
Oh, yeah? I always find it funny when they just make them look like their parent by giving their parent the same haircut.
Yeah. You inherited that haircut from your grandmother.
It's like, doesn't that just mean they go to the same hairdresser? I don't know. So the first Gen 3 Pokemon that we get to see is Duskull.
Very randomly.
Very randomly. Duskull out in the middle of the day.
Out in the middle of the woods.
Yeah, on the outskirts of Little Root Town.
I wish you could catch Duskull that early.
Oh, me too. But yeah, because Duskull only appears... I want to say Duskull only appears at Mount Pyre.
I'm pretty sure that's true.
And that's like second half of the game, right?
Yeah, by then Duskull's useless because it has like 4 HP.
Yeah. You can get it way earlier in Sword and Shield. You can get it like pretty much as soon as you leave the tutorial, you can get a Duskull.
Good.
It's nice. There's this little area in the wild area that has a spooky tower, and there's always Duskull hanging around it.
It's like in Sun and Moon. There's a little graveyard like right outside the first town.
Oh yeah. Duskull does make more sense as an early game Pokemon because it evolves twice.
That's true.
Usually
I always forget about Dusknoir because
it's new.
I don't like Dusknoir.
Don't you? I think it's pretty cool.
I don't know. The design feels too different to me.
Do
Like,
you?
okay, cute little one-eyed ghost, cute little one-eyed mummy, and then it's just a round Orbulon.
I guess that's true. It really doesn't look related to Dusclops at all. I think
No,
I think I like Dusk Noir because I never really liked Dusclops.
Dusclops is not my favorite, but like I feel like as soon as they introduced Dusk Noir, I was like, no, bring back Dusclops.
I just wish they brought back the skull.
Yeah,
Where's the skull? I want the skull in there.
it's embedded inside its head now.
There's no fully evolved Skeleton Pokemon.
This is true.
And
Give
there
us our
needs to be.
Skeltan.
Yeah, the next if Scarlet and Violet doesn't have a by the time this episode comes out, Scarlet and Violet will have released and have played it. But at the point right now where we're recording, it's not out yet. I think my Switch is currently downloading it, but I haven't played it yet, and it's not available to play yet. Where are we?
A spooky Duskull has given May a spook.
That's right. And then she crashes into a tree.
Yes. And everybody laughs.
I like the new title screen they have with the like map. It looks like the Pokénav map.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was cute.
That was cute.
A little
I'll
Ash
give
head.
it
That's the first we see of Ash, is his little sprite on the map.
Yeah. Just to let us know where everybody's at all times.
Yeah, but now he shows up for real, and he's showing up on a ship, and his Pikachu's all sick and stuff.
Yeah, I feel like we've really missed a piece of a storyline.
We have. This, I guess, is carrying on directly from the final episode of the Johto series. But I don't know if they actually let us know that Pikachu was sick in that episode, or if this is the first we see of it. You know, I'm going to look that up real quick.
I feel like this would be the first that we see of it because it explains what happened very briefly.
That episode was called Hoenn Alone, apparently.
Boo!
Okay, yes. At the very end of that episode, Pikachu did start to spark, and then Ash realized that he had a fever.
Anyway, Pikachu, let's get on this ship and go for an adventure!
I guess they were already on the ship when it happened.
Okay.
But Team Rocket are here on the ship as well.
Jessie's having a full existential crisis.
She sure is. I love that they I mean, I guess they followed Ash onto this boat, but I love that they had no idea where it was headed until the announcement that they've almost arrived.
She's like, oh, I've been here before.
Yes, when she hears the name of Little Root Town, she gets nostalgic. And she says, a town that can't be shaded any hue. And I looked, and that actually is the slogan of the town that's written on the sign in the game.
That almost sounds like a hopeless message.
It
Try
sure
as you
does.
might. It will always be a barren wasteland here.
I think most of the starting towns in Pokemon have like the theme of like white to them. I know that Masura Town, Ash's hometown, is usually translated directly as White Town.
I like Pallet Town.
I
That
like-
implies
Yeah,
something.
I think Pallet Town is better because every other town in Kanto is just a color, right? So
Hmm.
Pallet Town makes sense to me as the beginning of that. But yeah, Jessie's apparently been to Hoenn before. She does not elaborate on this.
She's too busy gazing at her navel the whole episode.
Yeah, I think like James and Meowth even ask her about whether she's been there before or not, and she just doesn't respond. She's having second thoughts about their quest to catch Pikachu.
Which, wild. Why would you ever? This is a great career path.
They've had so much success. Ash gets off the boat, ready to head to the Pokemon Center, but finds out that Little Root Town doesn't have one. Which is true. It doesn't.
Worthless little town.
So he calls Professor Birch, who isn't home, of course. But Professor Birch's aide asks Ash to wait for him at the port. He doesn't wait very long.
No, it's almost like he was driving there before he made the call.
Yeah, it takes them longer to drive back than it took for Ash to, like, wait. for him to get there. In the brief moments that he's waiting, we do get to see some Wingull. We don't see them properly, but we get to see them from below, and it was quite a nice shot, I thought.
It looked like they were shiny.
Did it?
The blue stripe looked green to me, and it gave me flashbacks of shiny Wingull.
Oh, yeah.
Horrible flashbacks. Not my flashbacks, Kevin's flashbacks.
I know, yeah, he gave it to me. He was so
Yeah.
upset. He was so upset with the shiny Wingull, and I was like, I'll have it.
Because he had been trying to get a shiny Murkrow for so long, and then he runs into that, and it's a Wingull.
That happened to me in Legends, though, where I was actively hunting for a shiny Psyduck, and then I found a Staravia. And I already had 2 shiny Staraptor.
I'm pretty sure I have 2 or 3 as well.
Yeah, shiny Staraptor was the first shiny I found in Legends. That's how I found out how shinies work in Legends. It was just...
What was the first shiny that I found? I found, like... I think it was, Hippopotas. And I found, like, 2 of them. And I found, like, 3 shiny Carnivine, and I was so mad.
We all find some crappy shinies. You know, I've found a lot of shiny Zubat in my time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Birch speeds up in a Jeep that he has.
I love when he's like, it's taking too long, and he just veers off into the forest.
He is not a safe driver.
No.
He's
a madman.
He has a 10-year-old child in the car.
With a sick rat.
And he's driving like speed laws were never invented.
I love it. I love the way he lives.
Dr. Odomaki, as he's known in Japan, is played by Fumihiko Tachiki, who also played Lieutenant Surge in both the anime and Pokemon Masters.
Oh boy.
And he will also go on to play Brock's Ludicolo.
That's a role that I would want.
He is probably best known for playing Gendo, Shinji's dad in Evangelion.
Oh, okay.
He also played Kratos in Tales of Symphonia, and he was the Japanese voice of Mac from Cars.
Ah, yes.
But he's done like a million things.
He is a prolific man.
Yes. Professor Birch in the English dub is played by Dan Green.
I know that name.
Yeah, we know Dan Green. We talked about him before because he played Hudson Horstachio in Viva Pinata.
Oh, I forgot that.
And he also played the NME sales guy in Kirby.
Oh, why did you have to remind me that we watched Viva Pinata?
We're going to watch it again someday.
No!
I also know him. He was my personal favorite voice of Knuckles the Echidna. And he does a lot of voices in Pokemon. He also played Norman, Chuck, Watson, Byron. He played Eugene, but in the dub they called him Eugene.
Eugene is too weird. Let's change that a little bit.
Children can't relate to this.
Children can't relate to the lifelong search for Suicune.
He is also the voice of Ash's Trico, and he was Entei in the 3rd movie, and probably his most fondly remembered Pokemon voice is Mewtwo. He was a pretty dang good Mewtwo. I love Dan Green. He's probably my favorite 4Kids actor. So he explains to Ash what the heck's wrong with his Pikachu, and asks him if he's received any big electric shock.
We get his PTSD flashback.
Yeah. Yeah, we get a flashback of Team Rocket using a big electromagnet on it.
It looked traumatizing.
It sure did. I think a lot of what happens to them would be traumatizing if you really put a lens to it.
If you ignore the comedy duo and look at the evil things that they're doing.
Yeah. But then Pikachu suddenly becomes delirious and starts struggling free of Ash's loving grasp.
And he bolts out into the wilderness.
Well, no, he doesn't yet. First, they actually get him back to the lab through the struggling, and they put some funny things on his cheeks.
They've got that machine that'll like absorb any extra electricity, so they put little like suction cuppies on him.
Yeah, it's supposed to drain the excess electricity, but Ash's Pikachu, as has been established many times throughout the series, is some kind of inhuman beast that contains, I guess, about 50 times the electricity of a regular Pikachu for some reason.
For some reason, indeed.
And it overloads this machine. This machine was purpose-built to do this, so you'd think it would have quite a big capacity.
Not for the world's most special Pikachu.
It overloads the machine, and the machine explodes.
Causing thousands upon thousands of dollars in lab technology.
And Pikachu's just gone. He's out of there, into the woods.
He's lost his dang old mind.
Yeah. And as Ash chases off after him, Professor Birch asks him if he has any Pokemon strong against electric types. And Ash is just like, I don't have anything else!
I decided to start my adventure without using any of the many Pokemon I've spent years catching.
I have come here only with my sickest Pokemon.
He's doing a Nuzlocke challenge run with a 1 HP Pikachu.
But luckily Birch has a bunch of Pokeballs on hand that he grabs to bring. And then his aide is like, those are the ones we prepared for May. So does Birch literally not have any Pokemon of his own?
That kind of seems to be the way that most of these Pokemon professors operate.
I guess. I mean, Professor Oak has a full team programmed in that he just never uses.
Programmed in? I've never seen his Pokemon.
No, I know what he has. He's mostly got the same stuff his grandson uses.
Of course. You had to learn it from somewhere, little turd.
They run past Team Rocket, who are just lurking in the bushes. Who knows how they caught up here, because they didn't have a crazy Jeep to ride.
Maybe they blasted off there.
They just blasted off from the port to the lab.
They use it as a means of transportation. Alright, Jesse, we need to blast off to Little Root now. Stand on this C4.
Jessie still just doesn't know. She just doesn't know if she cares.
Yeah, it's a mood.
There's all this excitement going on, and James and Meowth are still invested. But the funny thing is, I feel like Jessie is the driving force in them chasing Pikachu. So when she's not invested, James and Meowth are kind of unsure if they're invested either.
But at this point, you have no choice but to keep going.
Yeah. James and Meowth are doing it out of habit.
Stop, yeah.
Birch warns Ash that Pikachu could literally explode.
Yes, he says this a few times, and every time it just gets more and more hilarious.
I probably thought about the implications of that more than I should. More than the show wanted me to.
You mean raining Pikachu guts down everywhere?
That's sure what I was imagining. Because, you want to think they mean it in the sense of, like, when an Electrode does it, right? But there aren't any mammalian Pokemon that learn Explode. It's always the ones that are, like, metallic or clouds of gas.
The ones where you don't feel so bad when they blow up.
It's never a puppy or or a mouse. People aren't showing up with their exploding cats to Pokemon battles.
Not in a normal run, but in a randomizer,
Oh, that's
anything
true.
goes.
That's true. I wasn't thinking about randomizers. God, what if they just did a season of the show that was based on a randomizer?
Then everything in the world would have a recovery mood, because that was my experience when I did a randomizer of, I think, Emerald?
Right.
Everything had synthesis or milk drink or recover. It was awful.
I did one. I didn't get very far in it, but I did one, and my starter Pokemon was Zapdos. I think my choices were like Zigzagoon, Tentacruel, or Zapdos. I was like, well, that's an easy choice.
Did they have the same stats? Or were those
Yes. I don't
randomized
think the
too?
stats were randomized.
Well, you should have picked Zigzagoon. He's the strongest. He
I
can learn Surf and Strength.
I think I only had the Pokemon randomized. I didn't even randomize the types or the moves.
Hmm.
So Zapdos was the clear choice. Anyway, May shows up, but she doesn't want to wait for the professor to come back, so she rides out looking for him.
Yeah. She gets there and immediately is like, I don't like staying still. Bye.
So yeah, what if she just went on her journey with no Pokemon? Because that's all she wants.
I know.
She just wants
Why
to
even
travel.
stop to get a Pokemon?
Yeah. She's
It's not
just
like the video games where you get soft locked because you can't go in the grass.
I think she's just fulfilling her father's expectations. Yeah, she got here on a bike with no Pokemon. Sure, she got a little bit spooked by a Duskull, but she was fine.
Who among us wouldn't?
Me, I wouldn't. I'd be like, oh my god, Duskull! That's my starter Pokemon now. Then the professor's like, oh, why did Mike never showed up to get his starter? Meanwhile, I'm like halfway on my journey with Duskull. Anyway, as he's looking for Pikachu, Birch slips off a cliff and lands on a Poochyena. Right on it.
Yeah, he squishes that dog.
So it gets mad and calls more. And this is basically how the opening of the game happens.
Yeah, they tried really hard to canonize that.
Yeah. Birch uses his knowledge of Pokemon cries to determine that Poochyena is angry.
Because he couldn't just look at the fact that it was growling at him and summoning friends.
So I thought this was really interesting because I think this is a holdover from a mechanic that was removed from the game.
Which mechanic is that?
So Masuda was asked a while back if there was anything that he wanted to include in Gen 3 that he couldn't because of technical limitations. And he said that what they tried to do but couldn't was make it so that every single Pokemon had 3 distinct cries depending on its mood. And here, Birch lists off 3 different cries and attributes them to different moods. In his mind, he goes through what the sweet cry sounds like, what the sad cry sounds like, and then what the furious cry sounds like.
What is the point of knowing that?
I don't know.
How would they even implement that within the game in a way that makes sense?
Yeah, that's probably why they didn't. But I thought it was interesting that that seems to match up with that removed mechanic pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if that's what it was. But anyway, May shows up.
She's here to ruin the day now.
So this is where in the game you would choose your starter. Professor Birch is cornered by the Poochyena. He asks May to use a Pokemon to battle, and she has to take one of the 3 from his bag to send out. But she sends out Mudkip. In the game, that would mean that you've chosen Mudkip, but she does not keep Mudkip.
Yeah, it really makes it seem like she's making a life-changing decision at this point, but then it's like, all right, Mudkip, get back in the Pokeball. Let's go find out which Pokemon you're starting with.
Yeah, well, she's so bad at directing Mudkip that he has to take over and do it for us. So.
That's true. She blamed Mudkip, saying it didn't listen to her. It's like, you didn't even give it any commands.
She told it to use Water Gun, but then it used it on her instead.
Well, that sounds like a her problem.
Yeah. She didn't tell it to use Water Gun on the Poochyena.
Right.
Meanwhile, Ash is hallucinating.
Ash?
Meanwhile, Pikachu is hallucinating.
They do look very similar. I get them confused all the time.
There's a body swap episode.
I feel like I've seen it.
I haven't, but I know it exists. I've just seen the pictures of Pikachu's body with Ash's face on it.
Wait, okay, no, I haven't seen it. How they switched their heads?
No, not even their heads, just their faces. It's just like Pikachu, but with Ash's eyes and mouth.
Oh no, I'm gonna Google it.
At least I'm assuming that was a real picture and not a Photoshop someone made.
This is not giving me the results I desire.
Yeah, I'm finding a lot of clearly fan-made swaps here. Face swaps. That's not what I wanted.
Yeah. Yeah, I found one on DeviantArt.
They're pretty good, though.
Yeah, these are all clearly fake.
Okay, no, yeah, there is a real one, and I found it.
Alright, that's not the horrendous thing that I've been seeing.
No, it's funny, isn't it? How once you've seen all these fan-made ones, the real one doesn't look so bad anymore. If we had seen this first, it would look insane. Anyway, where are we?
Pikachu's hallucinating.
That's right. Pikachu shocks Ash, and the scream we hear is like pretty... pretty, like, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but...
Intense.
She sold that. She sold that scream.
We see a giant bolt of lightning from the distance through May and Birch's eyes, and that is the one that hit Ash.
Yep. So they start heading in that direction. Birch seems to have resigned himself to Pikachu's death. Like the way he's
just like, well, it's gonna explode. We might as well take cover.
Yeah, the way he's talking about it, it's like, yeah, it's gonna explode. That's the end of this.
You need to make peace with it.
Because even when he catches up with them, he's just like, all right, Ash, back away from the exploding Pikachu.
Back away from your soon-to-be dead best friend.
Yeah, I guess he doesn't know how much they've been through. Oh, he's only got one Pokemon. He must have just got it. Pikachu just, like, runs off a cliff.
Yes, he does. In a delirious haze.
Yeah, and Ash dives over and catches him. And then grabs onto a branch halfway down the cliff.
Right, the convenient branch that always protrudes from every cliff.
Yeah. Pikachu's still struggling trying to get out of his grip and just sinks his teeth in to Ash's arm. This gave me a little shock, I guess, because we don't see Pikachu bite ever, really.
He doesn't know that move.
No. But it was a real, like, I don't know, I felt like they did a good job of this was a pain I can relate to, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Because
this is your dog biting you on accident.
Exactly. When Pikachu's shocking him, I can't relate that much to that. But I can relate to, like, a dog that you love that's in a real state and it just bites you, not in its right mind. And you're not mad at it, you're just concerned about it.
Mm-hmm.
It really brought that feeling to me when that happened. Ash doesn't let go, even though the teeth are in.
Well, yeah, because they're literally dangling off a cliff. Can you imagine if he just threw him?
Yeah, I might.
You little shit! If you want to fall, then be it.
Oh, fine, explode! No, I'm
First
kidding.
you're gonna fall down the bottom of the cliff, and then you're gonna explode.
No, if we were dangling off a cliff and you bit me, I wouldn't let go.
I would bite you regardless of whether we were dangling off a cliff, though.
I know, and I still wouldn't let go. And then, because Ash doesn't let go, Pikachu realizes that it's Ash. And it's quite cute. He does the Pika speak thing. I think we talked about this when we covered the first episode, but Pikachu has certain phrases he'll use that mean things. And here he says Pika-Pi, which means Satoshi, which is Ash's name in Japanese.
He says it again later, too.
He does. Yeah, when he wakes up. It's cute. I really like the whole Pika speak thing. I like that sometimes you can tell what he's saying. I find that really adorable.
The fact that he has a lexicon of at most 4 words.
Yeah, names. It's pretty much just names. But we know who he's talking about.
Mhm.
It's nothing compared to the first episode. I don't think this even reaches the level of like sweetness that the first episode had.
I was thinking about that because, like, I'm watching this episode and I'm like, this is the most melodramatic first episode I've ever seen. But then I was like, wait a second. The actual first episode was very dramatic, but somehow it didn't feel like this ridiculously dramatic, I guess.
I think it's because the first episode I think is more dramatic than this, but it sells it better.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't feel ridiculous. Whereas this does feel silly.
It does. It throws a lot at you, especially because you've just got May over here poking around doing nothing.
Yeah. I definitely think this whole like sick Pikachu thing, I think it was all an attempt to call back to the first episode where he's carrying his injured Pikachu running from the Spearows. But where the first episode I was super invested in that, I'm just not invested this time. I don't know what it is, but they just didn't sell it as well as they did the first time.
Because it's tonally all over the place.
Yeah, because, when they did it in the first episode, the first half of the first episode is lighthearted, and then it gets dramatic at the very end and stays dramatic until the end, right?
Mm-hmm.
So all of the drama is concentrated in those last maybe 5 minutes of the episode. So that's when you get invested and you stay invested. But this one does keep pulling us out of the drama and then putting us back in it and then pulling us out again for the entire half hour. I thought it was really cute when Pikachu was licking the wound that it had made.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yeah, lick that bite.
Drink the blood.
Pikachu is adorable.
Yes, this has been established.
Like, even when Pokemon's at its worst, I like looking at Pikachu. I like watching Pikachu do things. It's just fun to watch Pikachu moving around.
This is a cute little yellow blob.
It's
How
like-
can you go wrong?
Exactly. It's like watching dog videos on Twitter.
And I love watching dog videos.
It's like you just go on your favorite social media every now and then, you just type in the word puppy and see what happens. Although, K-pop stans, I'm going to need you to stop referring to your favorite K-pop boy as a puppy, because it pollutes my feed.
Why don't you just put dog?
Because there's a very big distinction between dog videos and puppy videos, Mel. You know this.
There are, but it's not like it's that different. I love watching fully grown dogs do dog things as much as I love puppies.
Me too, but sometimes I just want to see puppies. And sometimes I just want to see puppies, and all that comes up is K-pop boys.
K-pup.
Yeah, can we please... Okay, there's the compromise. If you want to talk about a K-pop boy and call them a puppy, hashtag K-pop. Anyway, this is where Team Rocket shows up and delivers their motto, but Jessie has a crisis during it.
I love that they have just designed this giant robot that will specifically cure the problem that Pikachu is having at this point in time.
This is a robot they've used several times. That's why this one's called the Mark III.
Oh.
Because this is the third one. They've tried this gimmick several times before. So it's a giant battery robot designed to drain Pikachu's power and then use that power as its own power. I think this is the third time they've used it. I think they were keeping count there. But Meowth says that this time he's ironed out the problems and increased its capacity. So they grab Pikachu and they start draining the electricity. But because of Pikachu's increased electrical power due to its sickness, its capacity is a lot higher than Meowth had prepared for. And I love the moment where we see Pikachu get better, you know?
Yeah, we can see the change where the sickness has just left his body.
Yeah, but my favorite thing about it is that, like, they drain out all the sickness electricity, and then Pikachu gets happy, and then he's just like, well, I might as well. I might as well fuck with him.
Here and all.
And then he just starts, like, he's no longer being drained anymore. Now he's deliberately shocking it just to be a little shit.
Just to break it. Because it's already at capacity, and now it's full of healthy electricity.
And that's something that I love very much about Ash's Pikachu is his mischief. He's a mischievous little scamp, and I love that. So Pikachu explodes the machine just because he can. Also, it plays Ruby and Sapphire battle music over this whole scene, which I like.
Except I don't remember the battle where I had to fight a giant battery robot.
Well, that's only in the yellow version. What's the yellow crystal? Topaz? But yeah, Meowth and James aren't too happy about what's happening, but it renews Jessie's lust for life.
Her joie de vivre has returned.
I find it so funny that they're in there being electrocuted and James and Meowth are screaming and she's just like got her arms up in joyous rapture. And even as they fly away into the distance, browned by the electricity, she just looks really happy.
Truly browned, because Wobbuffet breaks out of his Pokeball. Wobbuffet was nowhere to be seen, and even he's fried.
Yeah. I love Wobbuffet.
He's so stupid.
We didn't talk about like Wobbuffet's actor or anything. I'm saving that for, because eventually I want us to cover the episode where Wobbuffet first appears, but we'll talk about Wobbuffet then. But he's great. I freaking love Wobbuffet.
I love that when they decided to make gender differences, they just slapped some lipstick on Wobbuffet.
I have friends who hate that.
Well, that's because they have no taste.
I get it. I understand the argument of like, that's just a stereotypical and lazy way of making something female, just put lipstick on it. That's true, I agree. But also, it's hilarious.
It's incredible. It's the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
If they did that for every Pokemon, then I'd be mad about it. You know, if every
that would be
Pokemon,
stupid.
if every single Pokemon's gender difference was just like eyelashes, lipstick, boobs, then yeah, that would be really annoying. But just doing it for a couple of them, I think is funny.
Like, when you're dealing with monsters, and most of them just look like animals, and then you put lipstick on one of them, that's funny.
Yeah, it's funny. I agree. Now that Jessie has learned that it is worth chasing Pikachu after all, we go back to the lab and they find that Pikachu is back to normal now, but he just needs rest.
Mm-hmm.
So he's kind of passed out, but he'll be okay when he wakes up. So May's ready to choose her first Pokemon, and Ash is way more excited about that than she is.
You know, I just watched this episode and I already forgot that part even happens, because it's so heavy on the exploding Pikachu drama.
I know.
And it's like, well, now that that's out of the way, May pick a Pokemon, I guess.
Yeah, we're like 3/4 of the way through the episode at this point. And
I was personally done watching it.
This is where the commercial bumpers happen, which is really strange to me, because we're way further than halfway through.
Yeah.
And the commercial bumpers are literally just Ash and May against some neon Kyogre and Groudon backgrounds.
Yeah.
Not as interesting as the old Who's That Pokemon part, but Oh
Yeah,
well.
I missed guessing.
Yeah. Which Pokemon from today's episode is it?
It's always Pikachu.
Might as well be. That would be hilarious if it was always Pikachu.
And then one time it's Diglett.
So Birch comes to display the 3 starters to us. He brings out Trico, and Ash the idiot asks if this obvious grass type is a water type.
Ash, who has been doing the Pokemon thing for 15 years by this point.
Yeah, it's got a giant leaf for a tail, and he asks if it's a water type.
Its name is Kimori. This is Tree Forest. Is it a water type?
It's green. Like, there's nothing about it that says water type. But May's scared of it, which is crazy, because to me, Trico is by far the coolest of these 3.
Trico was the first one that I picked in my first run.
Oh, yeah?
Uh-huh.
Me too, but then when it evolved into Sceptile, I restarted the game because I was so disappointed.
I was very disappointed, but I didn't restart the game because I'm not a quitter.
I was back then. I was young at the time. This was back when I was still deleting my saves to play again. I would never do that now.
Fool.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't talk about it, but this game is what got me back into Pokemon. And I say back into Pokemon, that makes it sound like I ever skipped a generation. I didn't. There was just probably about 6 months where I stopped watching the TV show.
I had completely forgotten that Pokemon existed because I lived in a sad and depressing bubble and I had no access to news. And then I found some weird online Pokemon game and it was full of all the Ruby and Sapphire Pokemon. I was like, oh, did they make another one?
Oh,
and
really?
then I bought it and I've been stuck ever since.
See, at the time, I was reading the Nintendo magazine. Every month I was getting the official Nintendo magazine, so I knew there was a new Pokemon coming. And I had kind of fallen out with Pokemon. I had Gold, but I got stuck at the Elite Four, so I never made it to Kanto. And then I sort of lost interest for a while, so I never got Crystal. I couldn't have played Crystal anyway because I didn't have a Game Boy Color.
Mm-hmm.
But then Ruby and Sapphire were coming out, and that's what got me back into it. So I was never out of it long enough that I missed a generation, but that was my brief falling out of Pokemon. It was literally just like I didn't watch the last 2 seasons of Johto. That was it. But yeah, when I came back, when I restarted my game after being so disappointed with Sceptile, I chose Mudkip. It's a shame because Trico's the only grass type I ever chose in the whole series. I worked it out, and so far I have been 50% 50% water and 50% fire with my starters.
I'm all over the place, man. You're boring.
Well, what grass ones have you picked?
Trico, Rowlet, Snivy.
Oh yeah, Snivy. I forgot you had Snivy. That's because I associate you more with Torchic for some reason. I don't know why.
I played as Torchic in, I think, an emulator run of Mystery Dungeon because it gives you that little personality quiz.
That's
and
right.
It said I was sassy and I was a Torchic.
That's right. That's probably why then. So yeah, May is afraid of the Trico. She's afraid of the Trico, and she remembers that Mudkip didn't listen to her. Although it did listen to her, it just...
That's what I'm saying. She's just bad at her job.
Yeah. But we know from the opening that Brock is going to get Mudkip, and Brock deserves Mudkip more than May does. I like that Birch drops in a little comment about how much Ash loves Pokemon.
In case we couldn't tell.
We can always tell. There's nobody on the planet Earth who loves Pokemon like Ash does.
He radiates an aura so strong.
It's his defining trait. Yeah, May ends up choosing Torchic because it's cute.
She's not wrong.
She's not wrong. It is very cute. Torchic is another one where, like, I don't like how it evolves. So
Yeah. I know that's an unpopular opinion, but I'm not into Blaziken.
no, me neither. Yeah, Blaziken. I think Blaziken is the most popular of this gen, right?
I think so, yeah.
I think it's the Charizard of Gen 3. I wonder how much of that is because May's Torchic was so prominent. I guess in this series, though, all of the starters are pretty prominent.
I would say it's just because the final forms of the other two aren't super impressive to look at.
Yeah, that's probably what it is. It's such a shame because Trico and Grovyle are so cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then Sceptile just loses all of the cool factor.
I do like Mega Sceptile.
I was just gonna say, I do
job.
think he gets the coolness back when he's a Mega, but Megas
Mhm.
don't exist anymore, so
They still exist in my world.
they still exist in Pokemon Go.
I never played Sword and Shield. It's not canon. Megas are real.
Haruka's Achamo being Torchic's Japanese name, is played by Chinami Nishimura, who we talked about in our last Pokemon episode because she also played Officer Jenny in Japanese.
Oh.
And May's Torchic is played by Rachel Lillis, who also plays Misty, Jessie, and then like 50% of the Pokemon. Jigglypuff, Vulpix, all the good ones.
Yeah.
So, something I forgot to mention is that during Pikachu's destruction of the machine, he also destroys May's bike.
Oh, yeah. They really wanted us to remember the very first episode.
Yeah, they sure did. This is a running gag. Because Dawn's bike also gets destroyed by Pikachu in the Diamond and Pearl series. So in the morning, she's just like staring at her bike, willing it not to be broken.
That's her means of escape, and he's destroyed it.
Yeah, when that doesn't work, she goes to yell at him. But she finds he's been up all night, just waiting on Pikachu, waking up. And she just doesn't have the heart to say anything.
By the bedside of his lover Pikachu.
Yeah, just like, again, this is trying to remind us of the original series, because that's the second episode, right? It was basically this.
Mm-hmm.
They just want to remind us how much he cares about his Pikachu.
You just want to remind us, hey, remember how good that first episode was? You want to keep coming back and watching, right?
I think they had lost a lot of viewers from what I've read, from what research I did. It seems like they had lost a lot of viewers over the course of Johto because Johto, in its second half, was way too heavy on kind of meaningless filler episodes where nothing of consequence happened and it was just like them meeting someone that would never show up again and then leaving. So I think they were going heavy on trying to remind us of a time when the show was better than that. But they didn't quite reach the lofty heights that the original series set up, I don't think.
I don't think so either.
This series has its episodes. There are some great Ruby and Sapphire episodes, and there are some even better Diamond and Pearl episodes. But this one isn't doing it for me.
No, it doesn't quite know what it wants to be.
No. So May decides not to say anything about her bike. But then, like, in the very next scene, she says something about her bike.
Yeah, loudly. Like, oh, it's too bad Pikachu ruined my bike.
Yeah, she just lays a heavy guilt trip on Ash because she doesn't want to have to travel to the next town on foot on her own. So she's laying a guilt trip on him so that he'll let her go with him. But I feel like he would have anyway.
Yeah, they're heading in the same direction.
Yeah, he's not a jerk.
Like, how many other people has he traveled with for all of 5 minutes?
Right. And that's basically where it ends. They're heading off to Oldale Town to register for the Pokemon League. May still isn't really sure if she wants that. She just wants to travel. And that's the end.
That's the end.
And then we get the ending theme.
I like the ending theme.
It was nice. It was pretty.
It was a little depressing, but like in an uplifting way.
It was. The animation was really cute, I thought. It's just Ash and Pikachu on a windy hill with a tree. Kind of had a Winnie the Pooh vibe about it. The song is called Because the Sky Is There.
Of course.
It was nice. I liked it. And then we get the preview for next time. The next episode is called Ancient Pokemon and the Mysterious Army. A strange choice for a second episode, I thought.
Yeah, it's a big step.
Yeah, it looks like it introduces Team Magma, but it also feels so much like the description of a filler episode.
Yeah.
Like they're finding ancient ruins and they're meeting some guy who's studying the ruins. There's nothing like that anywhere near here in the game. Like, I don't know. I feel like the second episode should be about them finding a Zigzagoon or something, you know?
No, why?
I looked it up, and there's only one new Pokemon introduced in the second episode, and it's Relicanth.
What?
Yeah.
Late game hard to get Relicanth?
Yeah. Like what? Only appears when you're diving, right? I think.
Yeah, and it's got like a 5% chance of showing up.
Very, very, very strange choice for a second episode. Like, I thought maybe the fossil Pokemon would appear, but apparently they don't. Because I noticed during the preview there was like a carving of an Omanyte in the background.
Mm-hmm.
So I figured like, oh, so this is probably Anorith and... What's the other one? Credilli?
Yeah.
Thought maybe they would show up, but they don't. It's just Relicanth.
All right.
Yeah, how weird. Anyway, then Professor Oak shows up to give us a lecture about Entei for some reason.
I loved it though.
Oh, it was great, but why not show a new Gen 3 Pokemon? Why is it Entei?
I want to talk about Entei.
Yeah, Professor Oak is not controlled by the current generation of Pokemon. If he wants to talk about an old one.
Say?
Oh, a new region? Well, let me talk about this Pokemon you've known about for 3 years already.
Anyway, I've been on a Wikipedia bender, and I'm just obsessed with Entei right now, so here's all the Entei facts I've learned.
I've become Entei-kin.
I'm like the Usain of Entei now.
I'm changing my name to Tenei. It's an anagram of Entei.
Goodbye, I'll be out in the wilds now.
Here's my haiku. Big eruption floating on flame. It's Entei. Yeah, I wrote that down. That's the real haiku that he reads at the end.
Good.
Yeah, just a couple of strange choices. Also, like, this is the first episode of a new generation of Pokemon with a brand new region. I really didn't feel like they showed many new Pokemon.
They showed us 5. I guess 6. Wingull.
That's true. Wait, hang on. I wrote down all the ones that I remembered seeing, but I didn't like go back and check. So we had the 3 starters.
Mm-hmm.
Duskull at the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Wingull, Poochyena. And we also did briefly see Beautifly during the insane driving scene.
Oh, did we?
Yeah. There was like a flock of them flying overhead at one point. But that insane driving scene would have been the perfect time to show more, I think. Like, remember in the first episode when Ash was running from the Spearow and we saw all those other Pokemon just observing the chase?
Yeah.
Like then
We even see Gyarados in the first episode.
yeah, it gives us a glimpse of a lot of Pokemon, and the episode opens with him watching that battle on TV where we see a bunch of Pokemon.
Oh yeah,
It should have been more like that, I think.
I agree.
Just throw some more in the background. Because when he's in the woods looking for Pikachu, it feels so uneventful. That would have been another perfect time for them to just show more wild Pokemon watching.
Yeah.
Like he's just walking through the woods calling for Pikachu, and there's a bunch of like Wurmple in the tree looking down or something.
I do think that makes the world feel a lot more alive, just having all those other Pokemon watching.
Yeah, for sure.
It felt kind of empty.
It did. It feels really uneventful. Specifically like when they're in the woods looking for Pikachu, like there's no Pokemon around, and it makes it feel like they're just, I don't know, on a soundstage.
Yeah. It doesn't really feel like Pokemon except for the fact that Pikachu is there.
Yeah. I did notice that they have differentiated the backgrounds in Hoenn from the backgrounds in Kanto and Johto they mostly look identical, but occasionally the background artists have put a palm tree in. And that's how you can tell it's Hoenn now.
It's the little things.
Oh, let's talk about the dub, shall we?
Okay, let's do it.
A kid from Pallet Town with a brand new world to see. I don't know what's ahead, but it won't get the best of me. There's so much to learn and battles to be won. I've advanced so far and still there's always more to come. Take a step and I'm on my way. Gonna start all over again. I wanna be a hero. Pokémon Advance. I'm on my way. I wanna be a hero. Give it just one chance. In the future we'll decide if there's a hero buried deep inside. I wanna be a hero. Pokémon.
That's a theme song.
I hate it.
It's not great.
I don't say this lightly. I liked all of the 4Kids Pokemon songs before this one. I thought they were all good. I
really like the Johto one too.
The Johto one's fantastic. The final Johto one is really good. That's the one that's... Oh, how does that one go? That's like...
I'm on a master quest. I want the whole world to see. I'm gonna be the very best. That's all I've got to do is believe in me.
And I love that one. It's great. This sucks, and I hate it. And I hated it at the time. And I've hated every 4Kids Pokemon song since. Or every dub Pokemon song since, I think. I haven't heard another one since this that I've thought, wow, that's a good song.
I would put that on my iPod and listen to it on the bus to school.
But the first Johto one is probably my favorite. I think I like that even more than the original dub theme. And that's a big, big compliment, because I love the original dub theme.
I think as far as composition goes, Johto is a much better song, but nostalgia makes the original hit so hard.
True. Yeah. For me as well, the nostalgia's there for the Johto one because the third movie is probably my favorite of all the movies.
Mm-hmm.
And it plays in that one. But anyway, this song sucks. I hate whoever wrote it, and I hate whoever sang it.
Tell us how you really feel.
The dub title of this episode is Get the Show on the Road. I'm not sure if that's breaking the fourth wall. I think it is.
I get it.
All of the music has been replaced, except for the background music for Team Rocket's motto, which means that we don't get the Fortree City theme, we don't get the Ruby and Sapphire battle theme in the dub.
Is it like the original series where it's just very overproduced as far as music goes?
It's like that, but dialed up to 11.
Oh no.
Yeah, so in the Japanese version of this episode, there's a lot of silence in the music. A lot of parts where there's no music playing and we just get ambient sound, which I think is nice.
Yeah, you don't need to have music all the time.
No, it doesn't need to be wall-to-wall music like a Doom game. All of the music here is reused from previous things. Well, I assume all of it is. I noticed a lot of music from the dub of Pikachu's Vacation thrown in here randomly.
Uh-huh.
What's weird is, like, it's not even cut well. They'll play like 2 seconds of one song and then abruptly cut to the middle of another song, which they'll play for another 2 seconds and then abruptly cut to another one. And it just creates this, throughout the entire episode, there's just this manic energy. Because it like can't decide what the mood is. It not only changes the moods completely from what it originally was, but it can't settle on a mood of its own. It's all over the place.
Yeah.
Which
it already was as far as the theme of the episode, just tonally all over the place. So this is just making everything worse.
Yeah. It definitely feels like whoever was doing the music was more concerned with making sure there was not a single moment with no music than they were with actually supporting the story of the episode.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of it that just doesn't make any sense. For example, as they're saying goodbye to the professor, there's like this dramatic sting that plays.
That's a good idea. You can look after one another.
Yes, be careful.
Don't worry, we will. Thanks a lot. Pika! See you soon.
Or will they?
Right? Doesn't it feel threatening?
Yes.
I don't know what they were thinking. But anyway, script-wise is pretty faithful. I didn't notice any major changes to the story. The one big change that I did notice was during the Team Rocket motto, and it was kind of a necessary change. So in the Japanese version, they get to the end of the motto where James says, "A white tomorrow awaits." And then Jessie, because she's having her crisis, spins round to him and says, "But does it really?"
Yeah.
And that was pretty funny, I thought. But that doesn't work in the English version, where James's last line in the motto is "Surrender now or prepare to fight." So instead, in the English version, Jessie just says, "What's the point?"
Surrender now or prepare for an out-of-this-world fight.
What's the point?
It's a good replacement.
It's a good replacement, but it doesn't quite work with the animation.
True.
Because she's, like, the animation is still clearly her, like, getting up in his face about something.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes sense when she's questioning what he just said. But when she's just saying, "What's the point?" in a disinterested tone, it doesn't really, why is she getting up in his face with that?
Because this episode's a mess.
That's true. I really liked Veronica Taylor's delivery on May trying to give Mudkip orders. That I thought was funny.
All right, a Mudkip!
Mudkip? That's good. Now what should I do?
Call out one of its attacks!
Okay, which is...
Just say use water gun now!
Got it. Use water gun.
She's so bored.
Yeah, I thought she did a good job selling that. I thought that was the one part where I liked the acting in the English version more than in the Japanese version.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the dub actually does have "Who's That Pokemon" as the commercial bumper.
Who was that Pokemon?
Do you want to make a guess what Pokemon you think it might be for this episode?
Poochyena.
It's Lantern.
Lantern!
Yeah. Wrong generation, doesn't appear in this episode.
Oh, I hate it.
I don't know about you, Mel, but I'm going to be honest. If I'm watching this and I see that preview for the next episode, I don't know if I'm coming back.
Yeah, I know what you mean. If I weren't already in a committed relationship with Pokemon, if I was just watching this with fresh eyes, I don't know that I would care.
even then, like, I mean, I guess I had the hindsight where I could look up and see what happens in the next episode. But, like, watching this one and then looking up and finding out that the only new Pokemon in the next episode is Relicanth, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know about this new generation, guys.
But at the same time, that's what fascinates me. I'm like, why Relicanth? All the things.
But I do know that there are episodes coming up that I do like. I know that Brock is coming back. I know that we're getting the Tailo episode and the Trico episode, which were both good. I know we're getting Team Rocket, getting Cacnea and Seviper.
Oh yeah, I forgot about Cacnea.
Yeah, there's a lot good. There's a lot good about this series. It was just a poor first episode.
They were trying way too hard to remind us of the very first episode that they forgot to make a good introduction to the Hoenn region.
Exactly. It's a poor first episode. It looks like it's a poor second episode. I know I watched this when it came out. I do not remember that second episode at all. So it can't have been memorable.
No, it does kind of look like filler.
And when your second episode looks like filler, that's not a good sign.
It's not ideal.
But, you know, I love Pokemon. I'm gonna go and play the new game. Probably not tomorrow, probably the next day. But, you know, soon. It's installed.
I'll get there one of these days.
Watching this episode made me want to play it more. So when this episode of the show goes up on Saturday morning, I can pretty much guarantee you that I was up. Probably I have just gone to bed when this episode comes, because this episode goes live at 7 a.m. UK time. I'll probably just be climbing into bed after playing Pokemon Scarlet. Because
The video will have just rendered.
I'm getting Scarlet. I know that's the unpopular choice. Most people are getting Violet.
I would have thought that the opposite was true.
No, Violet is the popular one this time.
Huh. Because it's a girly color, so I would have figured that every insecure man would have picked Scarlet.
Apparently, in most generations, the colder of the two colors is the most popular one. I was reading about this earlier today. The only exception is Ruby and Sapphire, where Ruby sold better than Sapphire.
I had Sapphire.
I had Ruby. I always just get the first one. Like, you know, they're always like, there's always a certain order that they're listed in, and I always just get the first one in that order.
I usually look at the version exclusives.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. If you would like to support our show, you could go to patreon.com/superbreakfastfriendsclub or coffee.com/superbreakfastfriendsclub, where you could kick some money in our direction and we'll use it to make the show better or something.
And definitely not turn it into a Pokemon plush. What I do with that money is my own business.
Yeah, I can't control you, much as I've tried. Thank you to our Patreon donators. My mom.
And your mom.
That's the only one so far, but you know, we can be hopeful. We've got lots of outtakes from the show. I put one free one on there, but that was for Halloween.
Isn't that enough for you people?
What else? You can follow us on Twitter at SBreakfastFC. I guess that's it.
I think that's all we do.
I think that's all the things that we're supposed to say. Bye! Oh, you know, I'd love a Trapinch.
Oh yeah.
I like Trapinch a lot.
What about Cricketune?
I'm not super into Cricketune.
Even though he has the best cry in the game?
Yeah, but you can't hear that from a plush.
What if you could?
Then I'd be worried.
You squeeze him and you hear the dee-lee-lee whoop.